couldn't do just lunch with y'all. Would have been good to see the dog. I always tell her it's so empty in the office when you're not there. It's like, that's one of those things I look forward to when I walk in the doors. Like, I don't say dog.
I miss her so bad. And I told her, Mom, you come back. You need that. All the time. Come in because I know she misses us and everything, but it's like, she'll be right back.
Buried up again.
I'm gonna get everybody in their pants to sleep.
Did you break it?
Well, I'm waiting for. I want to start the recording, but Francis.
Chicken.
No break. I'm going to go ahead and start the recording so that we make sure it works. So, letting y'all know that no one's listening to me. I don't know where Francis is.
And then the one in Milton is open as a specialty practice, so there are people that are
Up tonight.
Working.
Yes, we're recording. I'm just letting you guys know that. So.
Now, yes. It is recording, yes.
I'm going to call this October 1st, 2020 Planning Commission meeting to order. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have two items to consider tonight. And the first one is going to be, if it is forwarded to council, will be considered on October the 19th, 2020. That's PH-20-13. And the other one, MP-20-04, will be considered by council on October the 26th. But before we discuss those items, we have the minutes from the last meeting. What is the desire of the board?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
September 3rd meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. The first item on the agenda is PH-20-13 Unified Development Code Text Amendments, Animal Hospital, Small Animal. Ms. Kathy Cook will present.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. The first item is consideration of a text amendment to the Unified Development Code Section 2.2, which is the permitted use districts and regulations in order to add animal hospital, small animal as a conditional use in the O&I, which is the Office Institutional Zoning District. The text amendment is at the request of Jessica Hill, which is the applicant and counsel for the Veterinary Emergency Group. So she's here also. As you may or may not know, an application for a zoning change may be initiated by the City Council, the Planning Commission, the Director, or by any person who owns property within the city. So she is coming forward for the property owner. The applicant did provide information showing that the use is permitted by right or by administrative permit in office zoning districts and in some of the surrounding jurisdictions, including City of Milton, Johns Creek, Sandy Springs, and Roswell. And of course, with the animal hospital, small animal, that's not the long weekly stay or the daycare, so it's just short stays as a result of surgery. We are recommending approval of the text amendment, and of course, adding it as a conditional use, then each one would have to be looked at on its own merits to see if it fits within that O&I zoning. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those. Otherwise, the applicant is here also.
Any questions for Ms. Cook? No questions. That's the shortest presentation I ever heard.
It was for me.
I'm going to ask the applicant to come forward and make a presentation.
Remove this because it is hard to talk with it on. Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Jessica Hill, and I represent Veterinary Emergency Group. As the name suggests, they are an emergency group of veterinarians. They provide emergency-only care. They don't provide routine maintenance, so if your dog has, it needs to be spayed or neutered, or, you've got a routine checkup, that is not what Veterinary Emergency Group does. They are there when you come home and you find out your dog has eaten a sponge, or your dog is going into cardiac arrest, or your animal has pulled, an ACL, something along those lines where it is an emergency that you need care. In looking for a property, they're looking in Alpharetta and have found a wonderful site that is zoned OI, Office Institutional, and determined that although people clinics are allowed in OI, animal clinics are not. And so the genesis of this text amendment, from our perspective, is to give animals the same care that you give people. As Ms. Cook indicated, many of your peer local governments allow this type of use as either an administrative permit, or through an administrative permit, or as of right. There is no boarding proposed of any of the animals, and certainly there can be limitations for things like that. But the thought is, again, to give animals the same consideration that we give to people. As mentioned, the districts that allow this would be Milton, Johns Creek, City of Sandy Springs, Roswell, and Chamblee. I realize Chamblee is a little farther away, but most of the surrounding local governments do allow this use in OI. And we would ask that you support this text amendment, and then we're happy to share with you VEG's operation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I have one question. What's the typical length of stay that the dogs would, or animals would be there?
Sure, so the animals typically are not there overnight, and I'm actually going to let my client, somebody from my client, come up here and address this question more thoroughly, but there would be no boarding. Any sort of overnight stay would be due to surgery or other thing under a doctor's care. As far as length of stay, I assume it is the amount of time it takes for the animal to be treated, but I'm going to let Jennifer Hanlon, the Chief of Staff for VEG, answer that question.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Hanlon. As Jessica said, I'm the Chief of Staff at Veterinary Emergency Group. Typically, when animals come to our facility, they're probably there for about 30 minutes to an hour. A majority of our cases do not end up staying overnight. They come in, we fix them up, and they go home the same day. If they are staying overnight, I'd say the typical stay is probably 1 to 3 nights. It's not an extended boarding facility. We don't board. You can only stay, the animal can only stay if they're there for a medical purpose. So typically it's 30 minutes to an hour though.
So would you do like surgery on any of them at that facility, or would they be sent someplace else for a surgery?
So we're a full service.
Oh,
Sure.
This item is about the text amendment, and then each one would be looked at its own merit.
okay.
So they would have a chance to present
Okay.
the case, but this is just to determine if we should add a text amendment for
Okay.
our current definition.
Okay.
That's okay.
So this is the second item on the agenda.
Yeah, so we need to vote on the first one?
Well, we've had the applicant then on the second one. out of order. But anyways, I'll call you again then when we discuss the specific item. Yes. They are so related that when I listened to your presentation, I assumed we were talking about the second one. So sorry about that, but we heard you're going to have more time to present to us if you wish to. All right, sorry about that. Anybody wants to comment on the text amendments?
I just have a question, just very quick. Was there any intentional reason to not put it in there with the other surrounding counties, or is it something no one thought about, or was it purposeful that you didn't put that in?
No, it was truly something that we hadn't thought about, and it hadn't come up before.
Okay.
But after looking at the research, we definitely recommend approval of adding that as conditional use.
We're just behind our sister cities. Makes sense. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to comment on these text amendments? All right. What is the desire of the board? Discuss, no further questions, motion.
I'm trying to find the number.
I was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I had also gone to the second presentation. I'd like to make a motion to approve PH-20-12 Unified Development Code text amendment specifically relating to animal hospital, small animal.
Dash 13.
Dash 13, sorry.
I second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. It's going to go before council on October the 19th. Sorry, Ms. Cook, I got confused. All right, the second one is MP-20-04/CU-20-07, Veterinary Emergency Group, 2725 Old Milton Parkway. Mr. Michael Woodman is going to present.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. The next item before you is a master plan amendment and conditional use to allow a small animal hospital in a 4,500 square foot suite within an existing commercial building. An amendment to the Parkway 400 master plan is requested to add the use to Pod A, and a conditional use is requested to allow the use for a veterinary emergency group. The location map is on the overhead. The subject property is located at 2725 Old Milton Parkway, Suite A. Property is zoned O&I, Office Institutional. It was developed in 2008 with a one-story, 8,155 square foot building. Half of the building is occupied by Alpharetta Eye Clinic, who is also the owner of the building. The applicant proposes to use the other half of the building, which was formerly occupied by, and I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, Aomi, Hibachi, and Sushi. Surrounding properties are zoned O&I to the south and east. That's the Courtyard by Marriott and the Fifth Third Bank. MU mixed use to the north, which is Avalon, and C2 and O&I to the west, which is the Atwater commercial development and the Even Hotel. As you heard in the previous item, this use is permitted by right in the light industrial district, as well as the conditional use in our AG agriculture, CUP, community unit plan, C1, neighborhood commercial, and C2, general commercial, as well as the planned shopping center districts, and the applicant is proposing to add the use as a conditional use in the O&I district. Veterinary Emergency Group is an emergency vet business serving cats and dogs primarily, as well as household pets such as rabbits, birds, guinea pigs, and reptiles. And I'll just use the acronym for their name. VEG has 14 locations in New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Florida, and Texas, and they're currently expanding in Georgia, Colorado, and California. The business operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their peak hours, according to their application, are between the hours of 6 p.m. and midnight. Business does not perform routine or preventative care. They do not board animals. And our definition of animal hospital does not allow for boarding of animals, only associated with hospital stays. The applicant anticipates 4 to 5 employees at this location. Do have, let's see, where our site plan. So this is a street view of the building. The Alpharetta Eye Clinic is on this side, and this is the other side of the building where the VEG would like to occupy that space. And here's the site plan. This is Old Milton Parkway. Of course, Avalon's across the street here. Access to the building will be through, they do have a front door, but they also have rear access to the space as well. And the applicant did submit a letter from the property owner, so the owner of this building, indicating that the walls would be soundproof between the two spaces. Did research other animal hospitals in the city of Alpharetta. There are currently 6 animal hospitals operating within the city limits. However, there are no emergency veterinarian hospital or clinics within the city limits. The nearest emergency animal hospital is located at 900 Mansell Road. That's the Animal Emergency Center of North Fulton. That's in Roswell. And then in South Forsyth at 6460 Atlanta Highway, the All Pets Emergency and Referral. This item was shown to the public at the September 9th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There were no public comments. And staff has reviewed the applicant's proposal and finds that the master plan amendment and conditional use do not conflict with the established review criteria. The proposed use would be compatible with surrounding uses and other locations for this business type, which are situated along commercial corridors. The use would generate fewer PM peak hour trips than the previous restaurant that occupied the space. And as I mentioned before, there are no emergency animals currently in the city. With that, staff is recommending approval of the item subject to the following conditions. 1, add Animal Hospital Small Animals to Pod A of Parkway 400 Master Plan as a conditional use. 2, Animal Hospital Small Animals shall be added as a conditional use at 2725 Old Milton Parkway Suite A and limited to no more than 4,500 square feet. 3, conditional use approval shall be limited to Veterinary Emergency Group. No additional animal hospital, small animals, businesses, or subleasing shall be permitted within that approved space. 4, the hours of operation, which are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 5, boarding of animals is limited to short-term care incidental to the hospital use, which is consistent with our definition. 6, interior tenant improvements associated with Suite A shall include wall soundproofing per letter from Thomas Air dated 7/16/2020. And 7, mobile resources supporting the business, such as mobile MRI or X-ray, shall not be parked between the building and the street. The applicant hasn't indicated that they would have any type of facility such as that, but just knowing that that is common at medical facilities for humans, we went ahead and threw that, recommended that condition as well. And that concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael? No questions at this time. Now we can ask the applicant to come back and add anything to what you said.
Got a lot more to say this time. If we can put the presentation up. So good evening again. Representing Veterinary Emergency Group. And as usual, Mr. Woodman has stolen most of my thunder because he's explained to you the application, everything that's around it, and told you all about the site plan. You know, as mentioned, this is a master plan amendment with a conditional use permit. The property is zoned OI, but it is obviously across the street from Avalon. It's going into a former restaurant space, and there's a lot of commercial uses around it. So this is really a very commercial area on Old Milton Parkway. Jennifer Hanlon, the Chief of Staff of VEG, is going to walk you through the presentation about what exactly VEG does and how they operate, because I think there are some questions about that. And then, let's see if this will go. There we go.
Good evening again. My name is Jennifer Hanlon from VEG. So as was stated, we are an emergency and urgent care company for pets. We currently have actually 16 locations. Since our application went in, we've opened 2 more. 16 locations throughout New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Florida, Texas, and Colorado. And we will hopefully be at about 20 locations by the end of this year. We do emergencies different than most other hospitals, which I'll walk through in the next slide. But as was stated, we do operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We consider ourselves an extension of the GPs in the area. And when I say that, a general practice is typically open from 9 to 5. They work by appointment only. That's the type of place you take your pet if they need a vaccine, they need a wellness check. We don't do any of those services. We are an extension of that practice in the sense that you get home at 6 o'clock at night, you have found that Fluffy has thrown up 5 times. You call your GP, they're closed. They refer you to us. That's where we step in. We're also open during the day because in a lot of our communities we found that GPs, because they work on appointment only, they don't have time to see emergencies. They don't have the time or necessarily the resources dedicated to handle large catastrophic emergencies like VEG does. All of our doctors are trained emergency doctors. That is their specialty, whereas GP is a very different animal. They might not be able to handle a dog hit by a car, for example. I should also mention we have the highest net promoter score in the veterinary industry. It's a 97. The average net promoter score, which essentially means how often people would refer us or tell about us to friends, is a 97. That's ours, and the average one for the facilities in the industry is a 75. So what's different about coming to a VEG? As I said, emergency is all we do, and we like to say we do it best. All of our hospitals operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We never close. When you call a VEG very differently than calling any other type of just GP facility or emergency facility, you can speak directly to a veterinarian. So you get on the phone with one of our doctors, they can answer all your questions. They can tell you, yes, you should come in, or no, stay home, it's not an emergency, you can wait till the morning, go to your GP. When you arrive at VEG, it's also a very different experience. Typically, when you take your pet to a GP, if they need to have any type of services done, they need to get blood drawn, they need to get, some other type of activity done to them, they're taken into the back and you wait up front. Doesn't happen at VEG. Everyone comes directly into the treatment area where you can stay with your pet every single step of the way. If your pet needs surgery, you can watch. If your pet needs an x-ray, you can watch. If your pet needs blood taken, you can watch, stay with them the whole time. We always find a way to say yes. If your pet has to be hospitalized overnight, you can stay with them. We have beanbag chairs, we have cots, you can sleep overnight. If you can't stay, you can FaceTime with them. It's a very unique model, so we're always trying to find a way to say yes, and we're always trying to find a way to make the pets as comfortable as possible. One of our big staples is we see all our pets on the floor. Pets are most comfortable on the floor. It's awkward for them to get put onto an exam table. Our doctors sit directly on the floor. We even have special mats for them to sit on so everyone's comfortable. To give you an idea about our hospitals, they range in size from 2,500 square feet to about 5,000 plus square feet. Our flagship hospital in New York is about 6,000 square feet, and they are equipped with all the newest veterinary technology to handle emergencies. We have our own x-ray suite, surgery suite, and all of our diagnostics are in-house. It's a very boutique build-out. We have high-end finishes like custom cabinetry. We import Italian flooring. We have exposed ceilings. These are just a few pictures of our treatment and reception area. So it is a higher-end boutique feel than what you would typically get at the typical veterinary hospital that people often think of. And just here's a few more photos that you can see from some of our various hospitals. It's nice, it's open. One of the reasons for that is everyone's back in the treatment area together, so there needs to be a lot of room for not only the patients, but their families and then our employees as well. So I thought I would just go through some FAQs. Maybe you guys will have more when I'm done. But as I said, we are in the community to provide a dedicated emergency service. So we offer support for items such as vomiting, diarrhea, foreign body ingestion, injuries, things of that nature. Again, we don't perform any type of routine. We don't do vaccines, spays, neuters, or preventative care. It's already been said, we don't do any type of overnight boarding. Animals are only kept on the premises overnight if they're being hospitalized and they're under direct supervision by a nurse and a doctor. We do soundproof our hospitals. Our design team comes out to each hospital before it's built, and we go through a comprehensive plan to soundproof that. It's slightly different at every VEG, but we base the experiences of our current locations off of what our future ones need for soundproofing. And as it was already stated, we mostly see cats and dogs, but we do see a variety of household animals such as rabbits, guinea pigs, birds, and reptiles. And another really unique thing about VEG is our commitment to veterinary education. VEG offers 4 major student programs for students either in veterinary school or just going into veterinary school or coming out of veterinary school. A very unique thing about the veterinary industry is it's very hard to staff in our industry. There's just not a ton of veterinarians graduating from school. So we woke up one day and we said, we got to make our own. So we have something called the Early Entry Track. It's essentially a 6-month intensive program for new grads right out of vet school. We fly them across the country. They get CE everywhere. They get to work in our facilities. And then once they're done with their 6-month program, they graduate and they are a full-fledged VEG ER doctor. We also have externship programs where students currently in vet school, 1st year through 4th year, can come do a 2-week experience at a VEG, get an idea if they want to go into emergency medicine. We also have the VEG Scholarship. I think we're pretty much the only veterinary company that does this in the United States. We offer a full 4th year tuition to 1 student every year. We started it last year. This year will be our 2nd year providing it. So it's a very big piece of attracting students to our company. And then we have our Campus Ambassador program where we allow students to kind of rep VEG on their campus, get the word out, so when students graduate from school, they think, hey, I want to go work for VEG. I will say we probably anticipate at this Alpharetta location having 5 to maybe 15 students pass through the hospital each year. And our education team is going to reserve probably 5 to 10 spots for Alpharetta citizens. Most students need some kind of clinical experience before they apply to vet school. So we'll reserve those 5 spots for Alpharetta citizens to rotate through our hospital to get that experience that they need. Unfortunately, our medical director, Dr. Amanda Stevens, is a little under the weather, so she couldn't be here tonight, but Dr. Stevens is an emergency and intensive care veterinarian. She's originally from Florida. She actually just moved to Georgia last night. It's her first night living in Georgia, which might be why she's a little under the weather. They drove here from Florida. But she's very excited to be able to offer her services and VEG's services to the community at this time. And why did we locate at 2725 Old Milton Parkway? I know it's been stated a few times. There's no dedicated 24/7 emergency provider in Alpharetta. We do have the facility down in Roswell. They're only open nights, weekends, and holidays. So if you have an emergency at 3 p.m., you're out of luck. They can't help you. They're not open. And then the provider up in, I guess it's technically Milton, but they have an Alpharetta address. They are a specialty provider in the emergency world, or I should say in the veterinary world. There's 3 types of kind of hospitals. There's your GP, open 9 to 5. They work on appointments and they do your general wellness. There's emergency, like VEG. We only do emergency. And then there's the big specialty hospitals that have the different specialties, much like a human hospital, neurology, cardiology, oncology. They also have an emergency room there, but as you can imagine, similar to visiting a human hospital, the waits are very long when you go to one of those. So that's where VEG fills that gap, being able to provide the citizens of Alpharetta with dedicated daytime and nighttime emergency services. I guess I'll hand it over to Jessica.
All right, continuing on the theme of why this particular property, 2725 Old Milton Parkway is immediately adjacent to the Alpharetta Eye Clinic. Dr. Tommy Airy is here. He is not only the property owner, but also the adjacent tenant. And there's a letter in your packet, and he also supports the application, which he can confirm. Immediately, plan left, you've got a Starbucks drive-through. Immediately across Old Milton Parkway, there's the Container Store. And then there is Fifth Third Bank immediately adjacent to the right. And then behind is the Courtyard by Marriott Hotel. So the property is surrounded by predominantly commercial uses. Locating in this is great for VEG because they get a lot of their business. About a third of their business comes by people just seeing their name and knowing who they are. So being on a busy corridor is an important component to them. Also, ease of access is important. This is obviously right off 400. It's right along a main travel corridor, and when your pet is having an emergency, this location will be opportune for both the person having the emergency as well as VEG. These are just some of the locations and the neighboring tenants that they have. Obviously, there's a lot of them, and I won't go through all of them, but the adjacent tenants range from other doctor practices, national chains like Jersey Mike's, Club Pilates, FedEx, Target, Costco, TJ Maxx, Dollar Tree, Cold Stone, Pure Bar. I mean, there's a variety, Bank of America. There are a variety of adjacent tenants where VEG is located, and you can see some photos of some of their other locations. Through that, and we can certainly go back to that if you have more questions. The existing building is about 9,500 square feet. I was just told by Ms. Cook that Alpharetta has confirmed that the square footage of this suite is not 4,500 square feet, it's about 4,590. And that will impact, from a staff's condition perspective, condition 2 is limited to 4,500 square feet. We would ask that if you adopt this, that you adopt it with 4,590 to reflect the actual suite size. As I mentioned, the co-tenant is the eye clinic. There's 61 on-site parking spaces, which is far more than is needed for the vet clinic and the eye clinic. And obviously the restaurant use that was there required more parking spaces than the vet clinic does. The access will remain the same. The existing building will remain the same aside from the interior build out. There's no changes proposed aside, again, from signage from the exterior. So the site will continue to operate the way that it is now. We have reviewed the staff's recommendation, are amenable to all of the conditions listed in there with the one change I mentioned to the square footage. And with that, I'm going to ask if Mr. Tommy Airy will come up and just speak as the property owner and adjacent tenant.
Good evening, thank you. So
Good
I'm
evening.
Dr. Tommy Airy, from the owner of Alpharetta Eye Clinic as well as the owner of the building. I just wanted to state my support that we are looking forward to hopefully getting this relationship to the finish line. As far as adding to the presentation, I think with Avalon being a live, work, play type of environment, I think this would be a great fit for the community to have something like that. There are a lot of pet owners within the Avalon community and downtown Alpharetta area, and this would be great to have. Something. We got the city police department right around the corner from us, and this is a great fit to have something for pet owners as well. So we're in favor of that. I just wanted to let you know that we're in support of it. And then she had already mentioned that the discrepancy on the measurement, I had my contractor go out and measure, and it's like 4587 or something like that. So, but just wanted to see if there was any concerns that you had with regard to our side. But we don't have any. We've negotiated and expressed our concerns with them with regard to soundproofing and being a neighbor and we've had a hibachi grill next to us, and we've done okay. No clanging and banging of the knives and forks, so we're pretty comfortable with our arrangement and where our exam rooms are in relation to this. So.
Dr. Ari is my eye doctor.
Yes, it's good to see you again.
Until you took off the mask, I did not recognize
Yeah,
him.
yeah. Thought you might recognize.
I know
He knows everything about my eyes.
he's our family eye doctor too. I don't know. I think my kids go to you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again.
See you. But my vote has nothing to do with Dr. Ari being my doctor. In the interest of full disclosure.
See you.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
I'm not sure who to address this to, but number one, you had the slide with the logo of University of Georgia. I know they have one of the premier vet schools. Do you have a partnership with them, or is that just hopefully you'll create that?
Sure, great question. So we don't have an official partnership with the University of Georgia. They do have a very large veterinary school there. What our team does is they travel around the country. We have a very large recruiting education team, visiting veterinary schools and forming relationships with them. We go there and we do lectures during lunch. We take them out for happy hour. In some of our places, we hold tailgates with them. It's just to get the VET's name out and start forming that partnership. A lot of our EETs, which are early entry tracks that come to VET for that 6-month intensive program, are found through those relationships.
Okay.
I personally have been to one of the presentations at University of Georgia, so our team, hopefully once COVID subsides, we'll be heading back there soon.
Then I have, sorry, just one other question, then I'm done. I'm really active in animal rescue here in the area, and I just wondered, are you going to form partnerships with some of those groups? I mean, this is a community that supports animals, especially the discarded ones. So I know, I just was curious what your relationship is, or if you hope to develop one.
Sure, that's a great question. So in many of our locations, being an emergency hospital, we do have relationships with rescues. We do have something called the Veg Cares Foundation. It's a nonprofit that Veg started, and it works, trying to fund surgeries and treatment for underprivileged animals. So that's definitely something that would be in our plans. We let each of our individual hospitals kind of run that. Each hospital is run by a medical director, Dr. Amanda Stevens, and a hospital manager, and we give them free reign to partner with who they feel comfortable with. I will mention, we do also treat all the canine and fire dogs for free at our facilities. So if there's a canine dog that gets injured, a police officer can bring him in and we treat them for free.
I have a question for you. What do you anticipate the number of animals that you'd be seeing, say, in a 24-hour period or on a weekly basis, based on some of the other locations that you have?
Sure. So during our peak hours from 6 p.m. to about midnight, I'd say we see anywhere from 20 to 30 cases. Again, that's over that course of 12 hours. And as I stated previously, most of the cases come in, they're in and out within an hour. During the daytime hours, it can be a little more sporadic just because you never quite know. Some people are still going to their GPs for visits during the day, but I'd say it's probably 10 to 15.
Okay.
When do you project to open? When's your opening date?
So right now, based on the process we're going through with Alpharetta and the own business process we have in the background, probably sometime early next summer, so 2021.
First of all, you made a very good presentation. We learned a lot. That's why you're not getting a lot of questions, because you answered all my questions in your presentation. I was shocked to hear that there is no other emergency clinic in Alpharetta for small animals.
We really think we're going to be a really great benefit to the community. The other, facilities we've mentioned can be anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes with traffic, and when there's a real emergency, every second counts. And having done a lot of research on Alpharetta, we're very excited to be in this market. It's very clear you guys take very good care of this city, and we think we're going to be a really good benefit to everyone and their pets.
Yeah, we believe we do. Our staff here does a very good job.
Take good care of our pets.
You do.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is something that's very much needed in the city. Does anybody else have any questions?
No questions, but I'll just make two comments. So, very good presentation as one of those people that's had to drive 400 with a critical dog. I'm very happy to not have to do that again. So kudos to you guys for your market research and being in this area. So thank you very much. I look forward to not doing that drive. And I think the other thing I'd just bring up is I really love your forward thinking for your future vets and creating those inroads in your brand identification. I think the only thing I would recommend is a local high school, Cambridge High School, has a whole vet track program, and they have a full vet training center on the high school campus as far as our public school system. So I would think even a little younger as developing those customers and future doctors.
Of course, I'll definitely let our recruiting and education team know. You can never have
Very
enough.
unique.
You never have enough veterinarians.
And also, right down the street, they're opening a high school next year that has a healthcare track. Now, it's more for people, but they have a full surgical suite and everything, and it's going to be right down the street.
Oh wow, very
So
impressive.
it's a magnet STEM school, so we've got a lot of resources. And I'm with you, I've taken that 400 ride. When you have lab puppies, you know that place. When you got labs.
We like to say that we hope you don't need us, but we're here if you do.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to open the meeting for public comments, and after the public comments, if you need any time for rebuttal, you have some time to do that.
Thank you.
Anyone in favor of this application, please come forward. Seeing none, anyone in opposition? None in favor, none in opposition. I'm going to close public comment. Anything else you'd like to add to this? All right, I'm going to turn this over to the board for discussion, motion, but I'd like to start the discussion by saying that I am pretty much in favor of this application for reasons already stated by staff and the applicant. I did mention that I was shocked that there wasn't another similar clinic in the city of Alpharetta. I believe this location is very ideal for this type of operation right across from Avalon on Old Milton Parkway, what we actually consider the gateway to Alpharetta. So I couldn't have thought of a better location for this particular clinic. So from a need perspective, yes, we need one of these in Alpharetta. And from a location perspective, I couldn't think of a better location for this facility. So those are my comments.
I just want to say, I think that you've chosen a very good location, just coming to Alpharetta, probably any place in Alpharetta. And if Saturday morning at the farmer's market, the number of dogs that attend that market, if that's any indication, sometimes I think there's more dogs than there are people there. It's unbelievable. So I think you've got a good customer base to work with. So I think you'll be very successful.
And I think I'd like to add regarding what I heard, the way you support young people that are going to the profession. They're just a good corporate citizen for our city. That was very exciting to hear. Any further comment, motion?
You want to make comment?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve MP-20-04/CU-20-07 Veterinary Emergency Group /2725 Old Milton Parkway with the following conditions as noted by staff.
There is the square footage, 4,590 instead of 4,500.
Oh, with the 4,500 square feet. Nope.
Stricken to 4,590.
With the addition of, so number 2 then is limited to no more than 4,590 square feet.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. I believe it's clear enough. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. It's going to go before council on October the 26th, 2020. Any other items to consider? Any board items? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned, and it's now 7.